Chris, you do mention supply shortages are getting a little bit better. iPhone pretty resilient. I guess the macro affecting services, I mean, of those three areas and dynamics, what's the most important?
Hey, sure. Carl, thanks for having me. Few things I would mention. Number one is clearly iPhone is the biggest driver for revenues. So that has been really resilient despite all the weakness you're seeing in consumer spending. Services is very important because it's a high gross margin aspect. And that's something you noticed where the guidance for gross margin is a little lighter. Part of it is because some of the services aspect like digital advertising are slowing, and those are high margin components within the services. So I definitely say iPhone is very important, followed by services, then the rest of the hardware product lines.
Krish, we've never really had a protracted economic downturn in the smartphone era. I mean, the iPhone was young during the financial crisis, and so it was growing off of a very small base. What's your expectation on how smartphones, and particularly the iPhone, will perform versus overall consumer electronics and, say, PCs, which have had a bit of a resurgence?
Sure, John. So far, the demand has been resilient. Where we've seen weaknesses in the low-end smartphones, not the high-end like the Apple iPhones. We do actually assume a slight downtick in iPhones for next year, assuming a modest correction. So we actually do have it down a few percentage points year over year from a unit basis compared to this year. I would say that the way right now we're thinking about is, if we have like a stable phenomena, you probably have flattish iPhone to maybe slight iPhone growth, maybe a small modest correction down mid-single digits. We get into a severe recession, then you could probably be down 10 or more than 10%. And to your point earlier, I think any consumer spending weakness has not hit the high-end consumer yet, but it's something worth keeping your eyes and ears open to.
Hey, finally, Krish, we came into the quarter talking about to what degree the dollar would be a headwind. We had a discussion this morning about how well Apple did on that front, but do you think that kind of performance can be continued?
Yeah. At this point, I would say they kind of said it's about a 600 basis points headwind to margins. And what I would say is that let's say the US dollar remains flat right now all the way through the end of the year, expect another 600 basis point hit to December quarter margins too compared to, a year ago. So I think that's the way to think about it. They do hedge pretty well, but it does have some modest impact.
We'll watch that. Obviously, huge ramifications go way beyond Apple. Krish, thanks so much. Good to see you. Krish Sankar.